Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another live with me, Julia, the boss teacher. And in today's session, we are going to be talking about what do you do when you realize that you signed a client, but you now find out that they are not the right fit. Or better yet, let me put it a different way. You realize that you are not a good fit for each other. That's the politically correct way that most people would prefer to say it, because you don't want the client to know that they're the problem, and you don't want to admit that you are the problem. So let's just say you're not the right fit for each other. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's live session. We are live on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, as well as on Instagram. And if you missed this session, you can always catch future sessions where I'm going to be showing up live, same place, same time, to answer all of your questions that you submitted to me. Now, this question was sent in by one of our YouTube subscribers, Letitia. And in the comments, this is the question that Letitia asked, right? So what do you do when you take on a client and you realize that they are not the right fit? So we have some people popping on Instagram and on Facebook and YouTube as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy to have you. Thanks for hanging out with me on your lunch break. It's not your lunch break, taking a few minutes. We're going to be covering this topic. And then if you have any other questions, please feel free to share them in the comments. Share them in the chat, depending on which platform you're on. And you might just have your question answered live here in another one of these sessions. So make sure you submit your questions there. Now, understand, whenever you're deciding whether or not this client is a good fit to work with you or you to work with them, understand that you cannot work with everybody, right? You should know that by now. Like coaches preach that all over the internet. You cannot build a business and try and reach the world. You cannot build a business and try and reach everybody in your country. You cannot build a business and even try to reach everybody in your family, because everybody will not be interested in your content, in your services, right? So you have to get very specific and be very intentional about the people who you can and are able to work with. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today, I'm going to be giving you 3 things to consider to ensure that you only, let me emphasize, only work with your ideal client. Now, the first thing I want to share with you on that is you have to know exactly who your ideal client is. You can't be all over social media and say, hey, if you want this service, come and find me. If you want to buy this, come and find me. Can't do that, because nobody knows who you're talking to. Are you talking to aspiring entrepreneurs like I do? Are you talking to burnt out teachers like I do? Are you talking to aspiring authors? And if you want to get specific, aspiring authors who are writing a particular genre of text, right? Are you targeting medical doctors? Like a colleague of mine, we met a few years ago. She has a dental practice in Jamaica, and she does an amazing job at what she does. Her dental practice is not the cheapest, but she's always getting clients because she was able to really niche down on the people who she wants to serve. And so she started a podcast teaching other dental practitioners how to do what she does. So she had a very niche audience. So who is your ideal client? You must get very, very clear on who your service is helping first. And that's way before you sign the client as a contract. Way before, because this alone, this activity alone, knowing who your ideal client alone is going to help you from having some serious headaches down the future. So you have to get really, really clear about who your ideal client is. How do you do that? You're going to ask yourself some questions and decide which individuals is going to fit this profile. So I'm going to give you an assignment. I am the boss teacher. I have to give homework, right? I want you to Google the term customer avatar. Let me say it again. Google the term customer avatar. Find a template, create your customer avatar. Your customer avatar helps you to determine exactly, down to the very T, specifically, exactly. How many other words can I use? I don't know. But exactly who your ideal client is. So once you identify who your ideal client is, you now get extremely clear about your messaging, because what you say to your ideal client on social media, via email in their inbox, what you say to them in your YouTube videos, in your podcast, on your blog, on your website, is going to do one of two things. And this is it. Your messaging, your content that you put out is either going to disqualify them as your client, or it's going to qualify them as your client. So when they see your messaging all over, they already start to make the decision whether or not this boss teacher lady can help me. And if you are not what they are looking for, they're gone. But if you are what they're looking for, they'll follow you on social, they'll subscribe to your email newsletter, they'll be your little mini fans in the background checking you out. They may not even like your post, they may not even share your stuff, but they are still checking you out because they are somehow interested in something that you have to offer. So when you find your ideal client, ensure that your messaging is aligned with that, so that your potential, your audience, let me say the word audience, your audience can either qualify or disqualify themselves from your service. So that's step one. The next thing I want you to do is consider applying discovery calls to your business. Consider applying discovery calls to your business. Here is the word: discovery. Discovery. Let me say it again. The word says discovery. Now, in a discovery conversation, the whole point of having discovery calls is so that you can discover whether or not this person is a good fit for you guys to be working together. Right? You need to do that. And a lot of people shy away from discovery calls, and they might say, oh, I don't want to do any free discovery calls because they're free. Doesn't matter. I have discovery calls to this very day. As a matter of fact, I have a few today, this afternoon. The discovery call is going to help you, the business owner, to decide whether or not this person is the best fit to work with you. And can you really help them? There are tons of people. I literally just messaged a young lady from my Facebook page. She wanted to work with me, but what she wanted me to do, I know somebody who can help her better than I could. And I referred her to them. There's no point in me wasting my time to try and get that client when I know deep down in my heart that I can only help her halfway. I know somebody else who can take her the full length. And I said to her, listen, this is what I do, but I know X person who can help you with that specific question that you asked me about. And I gave her a link to the other person's page and say, go check them out. She said, thank you. Conversation ended there. That's saving me from a heck of a lot of headache down the future, rather than trying to convince her to become my client. And then I can't help her the way she wants me to help her. And then she gives me a bad review and say, Julia is the worst person in the world. She doesn't know what she's doing. We ain't going through that. I send you somewhere else. And we're going to talk about that in a minute as well. So consider having those discovery calls. When you have those discovery calls, this is where you're going to discover whether or not the person is the right fit for you. And you don't just, discovery calls are an art, guys. It's an art. I literally have an 8-page script that I use when I'm on a discovery call. If you want access to that script, you have to get in contact with me, because that is exclusive to my clients only. right? But I have a script that I use, and I've gotten to the point now where I don't necessarily have to use a script because I've gotten better at executing those calls. But when you start out, you can't just go on a discovery call and say to the individual, okay, thanks for taking the call. This is what I do. This is how I think I can help you. This is how much it costs. Are you ready to do business? Doesn't work that way. You're going to run away the majority of your prospects like that, right? There is a formula that you need to follow. There is a better way to do discovery calls, right? And you will find that you're going to start converting more and more persons from your discovery calls. If that is, and this is if they are the ideal client, you're going to start converting more of your ideal clients in the discovery calls when you follow that specific blueprint, that specific script, that specific order of conversations. So if you've been having discovery calls, if you haven't been having discovery calls, start doing it now. Okay? If you've been having them and this is your outline, hello, this is me, this is what I do, this is how I can help, this is how much it is for, are you ready to do business? If that's how you've been conducting your discovery calls, I can guarantee you probably have not been converting a lot of clients. Yeah, right? So there's a way to do it, and that's what I teach inside of my program. Now, even before the discovery call, you want to ensure that you have some pre-qualifying questions. And those pre-qualifying questions, again, will determine whether or not you actually have the discovery call with the individual, right? So if you have your pre-qualifying questions and you realize going through their responses that, this person doesn't necessarily look like they're a good fit to work with me, you can just message them and say, hey, thank you for booking a discovery call with me. However, I'm not able to support you in this area at this time, blah, blah, blah. Send them a nice, very politically correct email, and you move on with your life. So 2 points we've gotten so far. 1, make sure you know exactly who your ideal client is, and make sure your messaging speaks directly to that individual. 2, consider having discovery calls as part of your funnel. And if you're already doing discovery calls, you need to ensure you have a good script working with in order to convert more individuals into your programs. By the way, for those of you who want to schedule a discovery call with me, you can just send me a DM. Hello, I'm Hello Boss Teacher on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, right? So send me a message and I'll hook you up and let you know how we can sit down and have that nice little chit chat. Now, if you've followed everything that I've mentioned above, right? And you followed it to the T, there is a 99.999999999 chance that you will end up signing a client that is the right fit. But if by some means somebody fell through the cracks, and this client, after signing, after putting down their deposit, you realize, shucks, I really can't work with this person for whatever reason. And it may not necessarily be that you cannot help them, It may not necessarily be that you cannot help them. It could also be that something related to, it might not be a good culture fit. This person might not even be a good culture fit for you, meaning that your personalities do not align. I mean, their thinking and your way of thinking is far different and you're clashing on too many things. It might not necessarily even be that you can really, really and truly help them, but they might be a difficult person to work with. And they give you more headache than the money that they're paying you is worth. So all of these things that you really and truly have to understand as you're going through that process of onboarding somebody as a client. So here's the thing. If somebody falls through the cracks and they end up becoming your client, and after they become the client, you realize that this person is not the best fit, here are 2 things that you can do. Now, 1, this is the more practical solution. if you are still willing to work with the person regardless. You want to make sure that you are setting strict boundaries. So for example, you have a contract, and please have a contract. You have a contract and you say, listen, according to the contract, this is what we're going to do. These are the timelines. These are the deliverables. Ensure that you're keeping up your end of the bargain. I am keeping up my end of the bargain. And you follow the contract to the T. So you set some boundaries. You set expectations. Everybody knows exactly what to do. And throughout the process, you are enforcing those boundaries and expectations. So everybody's eyes on the prize. We are all moving towards the same goal according to this contract. Right? So we're not looking to the left. We're not looking to the right. We're not getting sidetracked. We're not, I mean, you know, as a business owner, know this person is not the ideal client and you want to get them off your hand as quickly as possible. That's the whole point. So you're moving forward with the contract. So anything outside of the contract, you get on it ASAP so you can get this relationship over as soon as possible. They're getting their results and you giving them the best of you. The second thing, and this is going back to the example I shared about the young lady who messaged me on Facebook, is if you don't think you're the best fit for them, you can always refer them to somebody else. Right? Definitely refer them to someone else. So, for example, so in the example I shared about this young lady who came to me who wanted to build tutoring. She wanted to build out the courses that she teaches in high school. She wanted to build it out as a tutoring business. And I've assisted one person like that in the past. And after doing that, I realized that I don't necessarily want to go down that route because that takes a different part of me out. And so I recommend individuals to one of my colleagues who specifically deals with that. The one client I had was a little bit unique because I knew I didn't want to touch tutoring, but this client was a bit unique. And that's the only reason I worked with her. Everybody else, I recommended them to my colleague. And so when she came to me, I said, listen, this is what I do. This is how I help individuals. But I think as it relates to CSEC math and all of those things, go to X person. So if you found yourself in that predicament when you already signed a client, the contract is already there, the invoice, the deposit is already paid, or the invoice is fully paid, and you might want to have that conversation with them, you're gonna have to craft it in such a way that it does not make them feel uncomfortable and you don't burn any bridges, cutting ties with that individual, and refer them to somebody else who you believe would be better able to assist them. So let me ask you, have you ever been in a situation where you ended up working with somebody that you realize that you really don't want to work with them for whatever reason, or they're not the best fit for you? Has that ever happened to you? I want you to type that in the comments, share the stories, and let's see the different conversations and the different experiences that are happening in real time. And again, remember to send me your questions via DM at Hello Boss Teacher on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere, all over social. That's where I'm there. And I'm going to be answering your questions live. So we have another question for our next live session, which is on Tuesday. And I've invited a very special guest of mine to come on live with me, and she is going to be doing most of the talking for our next live. So thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you follow me on our social platforms, Hello Boss Teacher. I'm going to be putting out a brand new training later on next week. I'm going to be putting out a brand new training called Exit Plan. We had a little, what do I want to call it? We had a little, the word is completely slipping me. We had a small group webinar and I shared the content with them and tweaking it to just make a final production to send out to you all. So exit plan, how to transition from your job to your purpose and get paid. Look out for that and make sure you sign up to get the content around that. And if you're watching this way ahead of time, please go to my website at thebossteacher.com to get access to that anytime in the future. That's it for today's live. Thank you all for hanging out with me, and I'll see you on the next one.